In the play Intimate Apparel, what I found interesting was that a lot of the characters migrated to New York for to fulfill their dreams. There was this illusion that New York would satisfy or fulfill a dream of being successful or um, giving them fortunes. Uh, and a quote by Mamie, let me tell you, so many wonderful ideas have been conjured in this room, get left right here in that bed or on a piano, scattered all above this room, or all over this room, excuse me. A couple of values and perspectives are inherent paradox of intimacy. The symbolism of the title intimate apparel as implies secretive and vulnerable. Um, Esther has a unique perspective of others, as we see there's much physical intimacy, but then everyone's lacking that emotional attachment or that emotional connection. Mamie's a prostitute, and she has a lot of physical intimacy with through her connections, but then she actually despises every person she connects with, stating that they do make me sick. Always thinking of booze, all pawning and pulling, all for $1 that they think they own you. Um, Another perspective is the ironic feeling of loneliness. Um, Everyone is surrounded by people, whether they're married or in the business natures, but everyone's also emotionally isolated as well. Mr. and Mrs. Van Buren are they're physically intimate, but because they can't conceive a child, Mrs. Van Buren feels like she's disappointing him, and both of them, while they're married, appear emotionally isolated or disconnected. And then there's Esther and George. Um, one of the quotes by Esther in the play is, I sat up in St. Martin Church for years, and none of y'all bothered with me until I walk in on your arm, talking about George, and then Mrs. Armstrong wants to have me over for tea. So there's a lot of loneliness there, where's just an undertone. And then what I ended up looking up was, I just had sometimes I'd have a different difficulty understanding where things were taking place. So the boudoirs, which I found was a woman's private sitting room, and then a lot of places are bedrooms were taking place, and those are pretty intimate settings that add to the intimate conversations and interactions happening in the play, which helped and added to the play's effect as I read through it. Um, uh, Theater's relationship to identity politics. This play was inspired by Notage's great grandmother. Um, while it depicts a historical truth of injustice, stereotype and prejudice are there without the association of the normal anger that associates with those stereotypes and prejudices. It's mostly frustration, which drives each character to understand that's the way the world is, and in order to change it, they had to deal with it head on. Um, so it definitely doesn't succumb to the traditional motifs of stereotypes. So I feel like it reinvented it, the understanding of African Americans as individuals, as human beings. They Each character just has an internal struggle with connecting with another, as you see with the people who are married, and Um, yeah, so and stereotypes, they definitely still exist in modern day, both negative and positive. A couple of examples of native of African Americans is still the overcriminalization of African Americans. That's not accurate now. It's definitely shifted. Uh, there are also these modern perceptions that they're great athletes. However, they're unintelligent. White Americans were only educated about ourselves. And the sub-social class of rednecks only watch NASCAR, they abuse hard drugs, things like that. And it's perpetuated by our pop culture and the entertainment industry, specifically in the news. They're all agenda based, and they're just out to make money, and that's unfortunate. It creates a lot of racial disparity across the board. Um, in order to overcome these, we need to overcome it with education. And I don't mean just like telling somebody about something that they experience. I mean, like, there needs to be thorough education on history and the way things actually happened here, starting from the beginning. And this is done through various humanities courses. I've been enlightened myself while taking a few. I took a women's and gender studies class that really helped me work through that. And open my eyes up to a lot of things. There's other documentaries like The 13th that came out a few years ago. That's a great documentary to just help you understand how far or what African Americans have dealt with thus far. Um, Lastly, a couple questions. The regarding George, the paradox of George is he a villain, or is he just misunderstood? Um, because they didn't know each other very well when he got there, and then Esther attempted to control him and conform him, make him conform to her idea of marriage, and it may have just very well brought out the worst in him. So, was he actually um, was he actually the man that was he stated in the letters, or was he the person that we saw towards the end of the play? Thank you.